appreciated movie of all time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Easily. Think about the things and the subject matter that it dealt with. Some of the horrible things that can happen in your life happen to those characters that move at the white police like they did at Clive and Bundy's.
It would have been a full-on. They would have loved to have. That would have allowed the cops to open fire on the crowd with live ammo. As far as the people you're talking about are concerned, as far as Fox News is concerned, that would have been a grip to intruder in my house, because I should be able to handle that intruder with a handgun. One would think at the most, and a rifle, at the very least, at some semblance of normalcy. I think it was Joe Biden who said that England has so few gun deaths, and the cops don't carry guns themselves. So
dumb.
Yeah. We're gonna take a break. When we come back, I just want to kind of take your call 773-76.
We got Steve in the Gold Coast.
Cool.
Ivan in Chicago. Ferguson population versus officials.
Mm-hmm.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back to the show. Let's take some calls. 773-763-9278. Is a military solution the only one on the minds of anybody in control these days? Have we elected or allowed to be elected or watch the election from a distance in terms of other countries, the election of hammers, where everything looks like a nail? Let's take your calls. Who do we have first, Johnny?
We've got Steve from the Gold Coast.
Cool. Hey, Steve. Hey, thanks for calling in early in the show so we can, actually talk to you, too. It's good.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, I wanted to talk about this concept of linkage, and I think it folds into what you're talking about with regard to this attitude about guns and violence and so forth, because keeping in mind that the people who are best armed
and going, well, we kind of had it coming. Well, it turns out the cops didn't, and then after he shows all this, the cops didn't know that he was a robbery suspect. He was literally accosted for jaywalking.
Maybe they did.
Pardon?
Or maybe they, depending.
Clive and Bundy people had walked up on the cops, and they did. They were, if you'll recall, they were quite hostile. And they were pointing guns at the police. If the police had, they're literally scissored off by neighborhood so that they have one congressperson and all white people in the area have four.
I understand that on the national level.
Yeah.
But
was the convenience store police say Michael Brown robbed just before he was shot and killed by an officer. No arrests were made overnight in Ferguson, Missouri. Police in northern New York say a couple accused of kidnapping two Amish girls might have been plotting more kidnappings.
Investigators think a rural New York couple accused of kidnapping two young Amish sisters were looking for easy targets.
Opportunities. It wouldn't have had to have been just...
And arms to the Kurdish forces attacked the IS fighters who wrested the Mosul dam from them a week earlier. A general told Merga, with U.S. air support, have seized control of the eastern side of the... have a cartoonishly nice idea of what Hitler was like. I mean, I honestly, and that may be arguably true. Bill Hitler, when he, okay, then you obviously think Hitler meant well.
Yeah, you're never on the business end of Hitler.
No, exactly. Right. There's no point. It's like I've always said, the people who glorify the past don't feeling on some level that should be it, that we shouldn't have to go through this again, that things like a woman's right to choose and black people having the right to vote is handled. And if you look at the crowds marching, because they're complaining because MSU in Mississippi is changing their nickname from Old Miss to the Bear because of the racial and racist connotations of Old Miss and how that used to be the nickname for the plantations down there. That they're like, it's one day and everybody's like, hey man, knock it off. What the heck is wrong with you?
What a bummer.
Yeah, right. I would almost have sympathy, but for their ideas.
Yeah.
But there's, it's stunning to me. This is their reaction. This is what you're seeing. This clinging to, their guns and their religion, as Obama got, kind of caught saying in that regard, and people had this horrifying reaction to it. When he's not talking about people who just want to have a shotgun and go hunting in that crowd, the soft NRA members, he meant the people who clamor and become nationalistic and fearful the minute anything different shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And we are seeing piles of them, and some of them, unfortunately, are cops in the in police forces like the Ferguson police force, and like the cops in L.A. who are just shot a man while he was lying on the ground.
Just for snoring
Or shot a guy who had headphones on, and we'll be back right after this.
WCPT.
Welcome back to the show. Who do we have on the line, Johnny?
On the line we have, you just said it.
Bethany?
Bethany.
Yeah.
NATO.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a very long name.
That's not her name. That's Bethany. Hi, Bethany. Welcome to the show.
Hi. I just wanted to call. You didn't bring up Libya, who also is falling from NATO's humanitarian wars. And I just think that it's next time we don't believe this false narrative of humanitarian bombs and wars, and I think it's just criminal what our foreign policy has done to Syria and to Iraq.
Yeah, well, again, you're talking about layers of blowback that are generational. I mean, if you talk...
This is on Obama. This is Obama's foreign policy I'm talking about. I mean, you can say what's happening in Ferguson is from all these oil wars to protect our oil interests, but
you can.
I would
How do
agree
you mean?
with you there. But I mean, with this whole Shia massacres that have been happening since Summit, and then they turn around and bomb Hamas. It just doesn't make sense. And this bombing and all this didn't start until death squads turned up in Kiev with McCain. And I just, like I said, I stopped calling your show. I was so upset that you supported what we did in Libya. I mean, you made it part of your happy ending.
I don't. Yeah, I haven't actually made that part of my happy ending to the.
It was. The killing of Gaddafi was. I was sickened.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I don't know that necessarily qualifies as our tacit support of any of ISIS and ISIL coming out of Libya, if that's what your concern is.
There was no outside in Libya or Iraq before our intervention, so
Okay, and then there was never any. There was no attachment to Al Qaeda to Saddam Hussein either, and then there was no Saddam Hussein of any worth and control before we started supporting him against Iran, because we decided that they were our enemy, and there was no Iran that hated the West until we had
or leaders that they need to stop down. I mean, it's just pure arrogance, and I think that Obama needs to stop listening to McCain, because he will back any fascists out there as long as they help our NATO cause. And I'd like to see an end to NATO. I don't think we need it. It's expensive. We're spending all this money when we could be investing in renewable energy. It's just evil foreign policy, and I guess that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, my clarification is that because of this tacit overlapping blowback and the complexity of the circumstances that people find themselves in, that the idea we would find ourselves in a situation where if we don't act, groups like the Yazidis will be wiped out. So, but if we do act under what you're saying, we're tacitly helping some sort of group, either the Northern Kurds, who whether there's an offshoot group of them that we shouldn't trust or don't trust, or this grouping together of major nations so that not everybody's acting singularly in these circumstances, has just basically you're just saying that any involvement we have as a group of nations or as a single nation that involves it was the same problem with Iraq. I agree.
But that was our involvement. That was due to our involvement. That would have never happened if NATO forces or NATO countries decided to get involved and decide who's going to be ruler of Libya. And now it's a failed state. There's militias everywhere, and we had this congressional hearing for the ambassador Stevens. We didn't have anything for Ben Waldy, who was getting bombed at the same time by the new government. It's so callous.
I think most military acts are defined as callous and almost require a callous mentality. That's the unfortunate part of it. And I think we run aground, and this is what I've been talking about the entire show, that there seems to be, on a foreign policy level, on a police level, on a diplomatic level, this idea that we're hiring hammers and everything looks like a nail. And that's what I think has to end. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. I appreciate the call, but I think there was a lot of flailing about, unfortunately. Yeah. At the bottom of the hour. We will indeed get to that. But do we not? Do we have a caller? I don't lose it. Yeah.
We do on line 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's old Donald in Aurora.
Cool.
Thank you.
Hey, Donald. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Al. How you doing?
I'm good.
I just heard that woman talking, and the truth of the matter is I'm getting so fed up with these people. No, her problem is that we have a black president. That's her problem. I'm so sick and tired. They're blaming about a poor foreign policy. But what's poor about it? Keeping us out of this wars. Why we were in 2 wars that Bush and Cheney started.
Right.
We would have been in war with Iraq. We would have been in war in Syria, Russia, and even North Korea. He kept us out of all these wars. What policy is she talking about that's so bad? He is the best president we've had and will have for God knows how much longer. We'll get another president that really wants to work for the American people like he does.
Right.
We might not see that again. And as far as I'm concerned, he's better than Bill Clinton. I rank him right up there with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Oh, by the way, I hope that woman's still listening. I'm a veteran, too. When all of our little Republican friends would get back in '66 when we were all getting drafted, all of the Republican heroes that she knows about.
And again, I don't have a problem if you have a criticism with policy issues that the president has. I certainly do at times. I just try to
and have a point to it, have some logic behind it,
right.
And have an alternate suggestion. Other than we should not do what we're doing now.
Exactly. Argue some sort of alternate point that was presented that you somehow think is a better way to go. Because if you just go, this is all wrong, without some idea of what's right, then it's just gibberish. At that point, you're just complaining. And you're complaining because, and I've got to start boiling down, why are you complaining? Is it because you really have an issue with the policy, or is it the guy that bothers you? Yeah. And if it's the guy, why does he bother you? And why does he bother you when Bush didn't? And then
Bush's eye.
There's something. What is the total? What's the obvious difference physically between these two guys? Obama doesn't clear brush. That's what it is. So it's his lack of brush clearing.
Oh, he could use it. You see him the other day. His brush is out of control.
Huh? Yeah. There's that right. Turning nonsense into comedy,
yeah,
right?
Pretty much. It was every time we would hang out and just I didn't realize we were riffing with each other. We were just being goofballs gagging around.
Right.
But it's what you parlayed into your act.
Yeah.
It's your crazy stream of consciousness, which I would define as like this death-defying stream of consciousness. But even as you said on CNN the other day, pales in comparison
to what Robin did.
To what Robin did.
Yeah. It was like, and his thing was he wouldn't even write; he would just research. And then there was this it was like his brain was a joke grinder, right. And you would just pour all the information in, and out would come these jokes. Some of which, ironically enough and funny enough, weren't his. Occasionally, he would say somebody else's.
Just write checks to people.
Yeah, he wrote a check to Rick Overton after his last special or the one before that because he said a bunch of Rick's jokes because he didn't censor himself. He just was like spilling, and he's like, oh, that's Rick stuff. Sorry. And he wrote a check, which is to his credit. This is not, the Carlos Mencia stealing jokes while sitting in the back with a notepad.
No, he blurted it out, and he paid his bill.
Exactly. It was, and he was a good soul. And I said on CNN, it just has a performance delivery system. Robin was beautiful at that. And it came from, in my estimation of the man and my experience around the man, from a desire for everybody to be laughing. He had this feeling, like when you were around him, he just, like when he would laugh at one of your jokes, it exploded out of him. Part of it was genuine, and part of it was him wanting to know he was laughing. He sold you his laugh because he wanted you to know he appreciated you.
Did you see the amazing obituary, it's sort of the Twitter obituary by Norm Macdonald?
No, I did not.
I'm going to find it during my happy ending.
Okay. But this is what I want to say, is that when I was on CNN, I said, there's a lot going on in people's lives, and you don't know why, the myriad of reasons people take their own lives, and it's sad, and it's unnecessary. And I was like, if it's just depression, he could have walked out the door, and millions of people would have just hugged him to death. He would have just, everybody, if he said, I'm down, the whole world would have gone, we love Robin Williams, and we would have all patch Adams him as best we could. Right. But I said,
We got Seth in Mississippi for a happy ending.
Cool. Okay.
You want us to go right into the song?
Yeah, we'll go straight in. Yeah.
Killer. I got one too if you want to go to me. If not, I get it.
Absolutely. No, of course we go to you. What do you mean, no, goofball. All right.
Bless your heart, Sparks.
Yes, man.
That's amazing.
It goes right up there with Weird Al having his first #1 ever. There's actually a movement now. Amazing. There's now a movement to have Weird Al play the Super Bowl, and I support it 1,000%.
Yeah, that was the last record on his record deal.
Yeah.
He's now free, and he's actually pretty happy about it because he just wants to release singles. Like he has a parody on there of that Robin Thicke song.
Yeah, Tacky.
And he's like, it would have been great if it came out 9 months ago.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
Right, but I had to wait for the record company to release the whole thing. Right.
But at the same time, Billy Joe Shaver's success is also marks a big trend resurgence from older country music singers and older rock singers like Dolly Parton scored a top 10 album with, and Willie Nelson scored his first #1 in 28 years with an album that he recorded this year.
Nice.
Yeah, see,
Personal happy ending. For the first time since my senior year, I scored 2 tickets to go see Garth Brooks.
A lot of scoring going on.
In Atlanta, Georgia, next month.
All right. Well, enjoy, Seth.
Robin Williams just walked by, even though he refers to him in every tweet as the funniest man in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so Norm said, I guess he heard me say his name because in an instant he was by my side, and he was a Jewish tailor taking my measurements. He went down on his knees, asked which way I dressed. So he told his friend on the phone that Robin Williams was on his knees in front of him measuring his inseam, and his friend didn't believe him. So he's like, oh, here, talk to my friend. So Robin takes the phone and for 10 minutes takes his friend's Chinese food order. And he said he laughed and laughed and like he was in a dream because no one else was there. So the place was out of Mushu pork, and there was nothing he could do about it. Oh, my God, the place is out of Mushu pork. And he angrily hung up on his friend, and just as he was about to thank him, he said, oh, you haven't even tried on the jacket. He goes back to it. And then he said he spoke mostly Yiddish, but when he finished and he was happy with his job, he took him to a mirror to present him, and he said no one witnessed any of this. Anyone. Robin Williams was in my dressing room for a good half hour and was far funnier than the set I had to do, and all of a sudden...
A protest against Arctic oil drilling. So safe, and as is everyone who was on the ship, they're back in safe hands as well. There's a new report that says Obamacare is helping young people get mental health treatment because the insistence that policies cover those kind of things, which, if anybody recalls what the Reagan administration's attitude towards the mentally ill, which is cut all funding to the mental hospitals and let them wander around a little bit.
Good.
Yeah, right. And then you wonder why.
Buck up.
Yeah, and then you wonder why your subways and your streets are full of schizophrenic homeless people who have no other options, and you
their new home.
Yeah, right. You can't yell "get a job" at somebody who thinks they're a dog, like at a certain point, or Teddy Roosevelt.
Until they, of course, save a little girl.
Right. If